Welcome back, Gilbert Panthers. Our last video session, we learned, we're starting to get into the Constitution. We covered the preamble to the Constitution, the opening paragraph, which promises so much to Americans. And then we just finished up with the 7 principles of the Constitution. All right, the founding fathers who created the Constitution, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They borrowed ideas from great minds before them and other countries and other governments, and they put it all together to create the Constitution, which is still our government today, over 200 years later. And so what we're going to look at today are the branches of government. You know that there are 3 of them. We're going to talk about those, but let's take a look at the learning targets. Helps if I turn it on. All right, so you're going to be introduced to the 3 branches of government today. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the 3 branches of government, what their role is, and the people who belong to these 3 branches of government, and then some of their functions. And it's all listed in the Constitution. All right? If you ever want to find out what it is, read the Constitution. And then we're going to look at all of the different articles of the Constitution. The articles are the Constitution, I should say, is broken down into 7 different articles, and we'll take a look at each one briefly. All right? So, Article 1 of the Constitution deals with the legislative branch of our government, Congress. All right? And this is where Congress meets. It's called the U.S. Capitol Building. You ever want to go to Washington, D.C., you can visit these places. It's a fantastic trip, learn all about our government, a lot about our history. But this is where the House of Representatives and the Senate meets. So this is called the Capitol Rotunda. And over on this side is where the 435 members of the House of Representatives meets. If there is a flag flying over the House of Representatives, that indicates that the House is in session, that the people there are working and doing some business for the American people. On the other side of the U.S. Capitol, right here, that is the Senate building. That is where 100 senators, 2 senators from each state, 50 states, that is where they conduct business. There's no flag on this picture, which means that on this date that this picture was taken, the House of Representatives was in session, the Senate was not. All right. If you ever go to Washington, D.C., and you want to set up a Capitol tour, you go and do something like that. Our eighth grade classes used to do this every year. It was a great trip. Unfortunately, interest in it has waned, and we have not gone for about 5 years, unfortunately. All right, so Congress, the legislative branch of our government. Congress is a 2-house legislature. And that is made up of the House of Representatives, who I told you is made up of 435 members, and then the Senate, which is made up of 100. And their job is to make laws for the United States. All right? Now, how do you get to be a representative? How do you get to be a senator? All right? Well, there are qualifications. If you want to be a member of the House of Representatives, you must be 25 years old. Can't be under 25. So you have to be 25 years old, and you have to have been a citizen of the United States for at least 7 years. All right? So could you be from another country, move to the United States, become a citizen, and then run for House of Representatives? Yes. And you must live in the state they represent. Okay? So if you're running for representative in the state of Michigan, you have to live in Michigan. So 25 years old, citizen for 7 years, must live in the state they represent. Okay, and that's for the House of Representatives. And in the House of Representatives, we call that the lower house. The upper house is the Senate. And in the Senate, you must be 30 years old to be able to be a senator. We want you to have more experience in government. We want you to have more experience in life, actually. You have to be a citizen for 9 years. And once again, yeah, you got to live in that state where you represent. All right? So Article 1 deals with everything about the legislative branch of Congress. Anything you want to know about the House of Representatives, anything you want to know about the Senate is found in Article 1. Why is that so important? It's going to be on your test, among other reasons. So, Article 1, Section 8 is all the powers that Congress has. Now, I'm not going to list them all, but I took some of the more important ones out. Declaring war. That's the job of Congress. Not the job of the president. The president can get up and make a speech and say, I want to go to war with this country. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do it just because one person is saying so. Congress listens to what the president has to say, and then the Senate votes on it. And that is how we declare war against other countries. Regulating the armed forces. So Congress is in charge of outfitting our armed forces, giving them the money that they need. All right. Taxing. Pretty important power to have. That is the power of Congress. And then credit and commerce, spending money and borrowing money. That's all under the powers of the legislative branch. Under Article 1, Section 8, that is their power. Executive branch. Anyone recognize this picture right here? It's the White House, right? That is where the President of the United States lives. And once again, if you ever go visit Washington, D.C., you can go all around these places. If you're one of those people who thinks far ahead, you can make an appointment, possibly get into the White House for a little tour that they've had, all right? But the executive branch. How do you know the president's in office? There will be a Marine standing outside the door. If there is a Marine standing outside the West Wing, the president is in the Oval Office, all right? A little bit of trivia. All right, so members of the executive branch. Who belongs to the executive branch? President of the United States. Vice President of the United States. And then there's a group of advisors to the president that the president gets to pick. Congress has to approve. It's called the cabinet, the advisors to the president. These are all members of the executive branch. There's a lot of others, but these are the most high-profile members of the executive branch. What's the job of the executive branch? To enforce the laws. All right? Why is that so important? It's on your test. So, I mentioned the Vice President of the United States, member of the executive branch, but he also has a role in the legislative branch. He is the head of the Senate. He is the president of the Senate, because I told you the Senate has 100 senators. So if they ever have a vote and it's 50-50, that's the only time that the vice president would be the president of the Senate, and he would come and he would give a tie-breaking vote. So dual roles there for the vice president. Qualifications for president. You might want to run for president one day. What do you have to do? Well, you have to be 35 years old. All right? Once again, we want you to have experience in life, so you can't just do it when you're 18. So 35 years old to be president of the United States, you have to be a natural born citizen. You have to have been born in the United States. Now, there are a couple of technicalities here. Let's say that my father was a member of the U.S. Army and he was stationed in Germany. And so he took my mom and they lived in Germany, and while they were there, I was born. Well, my father was working for the U.S. government. He was on assignment for the U.S. government. And so even though I was born in Germany, I would still technically be a U.S. citizen. And then you have to live in the U.S. for 14 years. In the last 14 years, you had to have lived in the U.S., and so you can run for president. So for those of you out there thinking about, hey, president seems like a cool job, that's what you got to do. So Article 2, executive branch. Article 1, legislative branch. Article 2, executive branch. And I put down some of the things you're going to find under Article 2. What is the president responsible for? Well, under Article 2, the Electoral College, how the president is elected. Now, everyone's going to go vote in November, and they're going to count all the votes. And sometimes whoever has the most doesn't always necessarily win, but the person who wins the Electoral College vote does win. The Electoral College votes on December 14th. Over a month after the original election day, the Electoral College will meet, and that is when the president will be officially appointed president. In the Constitution, they even tell you when election day is going to be. Succession. If the president dies, who becomes president? If the president and the vice president both die, who becomes president? There is a long line of succession of people who are next in line for the presidency in case something ever happens. Salary. How much does the president make? It's in there. Oath of office. It's in there. President is the commander-in-chief. He is the head of our military, head of our armed forces, all right? And then he also has a power called the power of pardon. He can say that someone is not guilty of a crime. He can shorten the sentence of someone in jail. He can release someone in jail, or she. Apologize for that. All right? So these are powers given to the president in the Constitution. And that brings us to our third branch of government, the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. This is the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. And members of the Supreme Court, right there, unfortunately, the one lady who was seated, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, passed away a couple weeks ago. The Supreme Court now has 8 members, and we always want to have 9, an odd number. And so her spot will be filled in the time coming up. So Supreme Court right now. And who belongs to the judicial branch? Well, it's the Supreme Court. It's other federal judges. If you are ever named a federal judge, it is your job until you die, you quit, or you break the law and get caught. All right? So judges, federal judges, not elected. They are appointed. Same with the Supreme Court. All right? The president gets to pick who he wants. Congress has to approve it. There's that checks and balances that we've talked about in constitutional principles. All right? What's the job of the judicial branch? Well, it says to interpret the laws, which means to make sure that laws are fair, that the laws passed by Congress and approved by the president are fair to all people, that they don't favor one group over another, okay? So then the Constitution is broken down into articles, 7 articles. Article 1, legislative branch. 2, executive branch. 3, judicial branch. Article 4 deals with the states, relations among the states. How are new states admitted to the Union? Puerto Rico right now, they keep voting on whether or not they want to become a new state or not. Well, what happens when they finally do? It's in the Constitution. Extradition. Someone breaks the law in Nevada, and then they run and hide in Ohio. Well, then Nevada has to bring that person back to Nevada for trial. It's called extradition. Right? All the states agree to do that for each other. No favorite status, which means that no state can have a favorite status. They can be treated better than other states. All equal, no matter size, no matter population, all equal. Article 5, amending the Constitution. We can change the Constitution. The Constitution is referred to as a living Constitution because it can be amended, it can be changed. Over the course of these 200 years, over 10,000 amendments have been mentioned. But it's such a hard process to complete. Only 27 amendments have been passed in over 200 years. And of those 27, the first 10, the Bill of Rights, was added right away. So really, 17 changes over that time. And we'll talk about the amendments in our next video session. Article 6, supremacy of the national government. Article 6 very clearly declares that the Constitution is the law of the land. There is no other law that supersedes the Constitution. Also in Article 6 is a loyalty to the Constitution oath. Any senator, any representative, any governor, any president, they all have to declare their loyalty to the United States in an oath. before they take office. It's found in the Constitution. And then Article 7, simply the ratification of the Constitution. It shows all the founding fathers who put this Constitution that they created, and then they signed it. All right, so what we did today is we went over the 3 branches of government, showed you who members might be in these branches, what powers do they have, and then we covered the 7 articles of the Constitution. So hopefully you're gaining a better understanding of our set of laws that rule this country. And as always, when you need help with your homework assignment on the study guide, watch the video, look at the PowerPoint, read the book, all right? Although most of this presentation did not use our book, all right? So I would stick with the video or the Google Slides. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks, Hilbert.